I first got involved in the site in early 2008 and came to do the conservation management plan, and perhaps foolishly thought I would come do the conservation management plan, go away and never be here again. But as it's worked out, I seem to have spent a big chunk of the last 3 years here, and hopefully I'm going to spend a lot more time here over the next 3 or 4 years. Conservation management plan, you're probably, as Paul has said, you're clearly a very informed audience. I'm sure you don't need telling what a conservation management plan is all about. Essentially, the tricky bit is the evaluation of significance. And I think the thing to stress and remember about it is that it is a management plan. It is about conservation, it's about conserving the significance of the site. But it is about managing change, and managing change in a way which does the least possible damage to the significance. And that's a point which is sort of easy to miss. As I said, the difficult bit with conservation management plans is the significance. You know, how do you actually evaluate the significance? What did my team think was significant about this site? Well, I think the first and most obvious point is that it is a complete city block which has survived pretty much intact. Somebody stepping straight from 1920 into 2011 would still recognize most of the features on this block. So the fact it's survived as this low-rise, complete city block is, you know, perhaps the most significant thing about it. Those of you who've been around the site don't need telling that it does have a jolly nice collection of buildings dating from 1850 through the next 100 years. And the whole site is made more interesting by the fact that there really is an excellent plan progression and a lot of original drawings, some in Hong Kong, some we found in the Public Records Office at Kew. And the fact that on those drawings you can see what the original uses were makes the whole thing that much more intriguing as well. This late 1860s plan has the prison in its sort of full extent, and you can see the west wing and the diagonal wing sticking out southwards, all of which have been knocked off, and you're left just with the end of D Hall as the oldest bit of the building on the site. That's the bit, the top pink on the left-hand side, in simple terms. And down below you can see, by the late 1860s, the barracks, as we now call it, was there, at the time labelled Central Police Station. We found the original design drawings of the barracks with the uses on there, and what made it particularly appealing for myself was that it's signed by the then Surveyor General Charles Cleverley, who was actually the great-grandfather of one of my partners, Peter Cleverley. So we, I suppose, have some claim to being here for some time. The drawings do certainly make the whole thing that much more interesting, as do the terrific collection of photographs. The barracks here before the 4th floor was added, and probably a rather more elegant building. And no, we're not proposing to knock the 4th floor off, tempting though that might be. The open spaces, I think, are as significant as the buildings. We were very impressed by the character of them and the difference in character of them. You have the parade ground, which is this formal space which is addressed by the building standing square onto it, and it has a, perhaps not grandeur, but it has a formality about it. And we have intriguingly found the original surface of the police yard, which is about 350 millimetres below the present level. The concrete of the car parks have been dumped on top of the original hog-in surface, which has actually changed the proportion of the barracks, which was originally up 3.5 steps. It's now up 1.5 steps. And again, I don't think we're going to be lowering the whole thing, but it's interesting the way that these things change. The prison yard, by contrast, is a very bleak area, which hemmed in by the high wall. It's not a terribly nice place to be in, And whilst obviously one wants to make this into an attractive place for the public to go, a place to go and sit, to move through, I think keeping something of the austere nature and making sure that the yard and indeed the lower yard remain in their present form and relatively unobstructed. And I think the sort of long-term management of the areas is certainly important. You know, we don't want the police yard full of martini umbrellas and tables as restaurants spread into it. We're going to keep some sense of what the space was. The surrounding walls are clearly an enormously important feature. It is what most people would have seen as the site. You know, you go round the block and you're aware of these towering walls. Keeping the walls, keeping that sense of enclosure, keeping the sense of completeness of the block is very important. But I think it does provide a terrific challenge. How do you actually get people to move through the space? How do you get the site energized? How do you make people feel this is somewhere they can go, whilst at the same time preserving that sense of the containment? Perhaps removing the trees before they become bigger and contentious is something we should be thinking about. The bigger trees we felt were very significant. These trees, particularly the group in the prison yard, do give a touch of humanity to what is otherwise a very stark place, and so keeping the trees, making sure they're not damaged during the work is something which is a sort of immediate policy. And then perhaps the most difficult area of significance, the community value, the value that people place on it through their own memories and associations, and obviously this blue gate, which intriguingly, being the blue gate, we found quite a few old photographs which showed it was painted cream previously, so the blue gate is a fairly recent bit of memory. But this was where everybody went in and out, and Ethel was something that I think I probably got wrong in my initial evaluation of the site. I thought this was a pretty ordinary building which was put up in the 20s, altered in the 30s, bombed during the Second World War, rebuilt in